Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Glad to have you here as always. And as someone so eloquently put it in my comments, it's time for a Hawk tour. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1 or 2, this is the Ebon Hawk. Now, this is quite possibly the coolest spaceship of any Star Wars content they've ever made. At least that's how I feel about it. I love this thing. And this build was designed by Brick Boys Custom Designs. The link to their page will be in the description for their rebrickable page. This is, they say that it's 6,238 parts, I believe. My experience with this is that the parts list is not accurate. There could be more or less, I don't know. I ordered the instructions in 2021 and spent about a year getting all the parts for this. So I also have no idea how much I paid. Probably too much. Who knows? Maybe I paid less than it really is worth. But to me, I am perfectly happy with this. The exterior is gorgeous. I'll show you some close up here. Don't mind all the basement stuff in the background. I don't have much room upstairs, so I have all my Lego stuff down here. And that's my setup right there, covered in a whole bunch of things that I need to get to. But back to the Ebon Hawk. This thing is gorgeous. Like I said, Brick Boys Custom Designs. They absolutely nailed the exterior. Interior is a different story, but luckily, you don't really have to look at the interior too much. But my goodness, the outside is so very nice. So, I technically finished building this like a year ago, but if you've seen some of my shorts recently, these parts right here, these 6x6 curved slopes in dark red. Those used to be $9 a piece, and this build takes 16 of them. But the price for those dropped dramatically just recently, and so I am now able to show you guys this in all its glory. And in fact, I registered this earlier today, and that small one over there, to show at WasabiCon next month, June 19th and 20th, I believe, at the Hilton and downtown Portland. So if anybody is local and you guys want to go to that, the group I'm in, Portlug, is going to have 3 whole areas at the convention. Whole bunch of stuff to see. And if you show up, you'll see this there. So, it's a lot of the exterior. I'm just gonna give you a real quick look at the bottom. There's not a lot of space here. Hopefully you guys can, let's see if I can get through these slats a bit. Yeah, this was a dumb idea. Oh well. So there's not a lot on the bottom. It is tiled off, and you do have the red along the ring as you do on the top. And there are 8 bits of landing gear here. That is, as far as I am aware of, twice what the actual ship should have. But this is a large Lego build. It's, actually affected by physics, unlike the video game. So they doubled up, put them all the places that needs to be. It's not too heavy. It is 12 pounds though. And those landing gear do retract, by the way. Let's see if I can show you here. There we go. They retract and actually sit up there most of the way. Then you just pull them down. It's pretty neat. This section right here is a little bit wobbly because its only connection point is right there. It's kind of a pillar, and it just goes straight back into the frame. So that right there is pretty much the weakest part of this build. Everywhere else is very, very good. So long as you get good hand underneath them. Oh, moving around, I'm kind of out of breath. So let's show you some features. You have a landing ramp here that folds down. I really love this feature. This section right here is probably my favorite. And there you go. To see inside, you've got this panel opens here. You can see that really nice landing area. Somebody mentioned that this section is a little too big, and I haven't looked at any like diagrams or anything, but I do feel like it is a little bit big, but it could just be because with the video game, the inside of the ship is significantly larger than the outside of the ship. And so what you see when you're running around inside it is not really going to translate to the exterior very well. And I think they did a really good job nailing the external view. And honestly, that's all we can really hope for. The cockpit, this whole section comes off. And it's nice, but there's not a lot going on in there. There's supposed to be a communications area right off to here, and there's supposed to be the Navi computer right along here, but there's kind of nothing here. Control panels. Like I said, you're very restricted by the space. You can't do much on the inside that you'd want to do because the outside has to be more accurate, I suppose. So that comes off. There's not a lot going on the inside. Spin that around, lift this up. This section right here, I had to redesign because this would not close, because what they had was clipping through the cones. It was physically too large for the spot that they had it in. Lift that up. To lift the engines, you pull this out. Those clip in right there on both sides. This side is a little bit loose, but it's really good. So you pull those back, and then these lift up like this. The hyperdrive is wildly wrong if you compare it to the video game. And that's going to be a prevailing theme for kind of the rest of this video, is the interior. Everything in here is just not what you see in the game. So don't expect much from there. Honestly, I really don't care for what they did with the interior. It feels like they had a second person designing the interior and not the same person doing the whole thing. And it also, some of these spots, I feel like they designed it before testing stuff and then just sold the instructions for it without having actually physically built it themselves. The whole turret section comes off, and here's the full interior. These panels feel so much like the old play-scale Millennium Falcons, where some of them had those panels open up. You know, I'm not familiar with some of the others because I only bought one of that Falcon, but honestly, I think most of them have that, except for the original where it had the big panels that just, the whole shell comes off. But yeah, that's everything open. So it's literally just the back half of the ship. When you're building this, you do the whole base level, the whole shebang of this whole strip here, the second half. And then you tile it, and the first thing you do is you build the bathroom. And it has an adorable little toilet in there, and a shower and a sink. So this section right here, technically, you never see in the game. This whole area is, you know, there's the hallway, and there's no way to get in there. It does have a door, but you never see inside the door, except for like 2 seconds in the second one. If you do the sort of the tutorial phase, but you never really see into that room. Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot. These also come up, but I don't like really taking them off. But it does show you these walkways here. This section here is supposed to be the common area, but it is tiny, super duper small. And then you have the medical bay, which you actually do see in the show, and they put a bunch of stuff in here. I really don't think they have a back tank in the game. I've been running through it and I've never seen that, but it is a nice little feature they put in there, and it opens. Not very far because it hits the bed, but it does technically open. You can see in the windows there. And then, so these beds, double bunks here and double bunks there, those are supposed to be over here. There's supposed to be 3 beds on this side, and I don't think there were any on this side. There might have been tucked in there, but this section is hollow. There's nothing in there. And then this is all just solid brick built section on both sides. So you can't put anything in there, so I suppose they decided to go there. You've got little lounge area. This, of course, in the video game is supposed to be like this whole section right here. This entire bit. That's supposed to be shorter, and then that is supposed to lead to the landing ramp. And this is supposed to be the storage area that they have the swoop bike in. And you get HK-47 and Canderous hanging out in here. You have the workbench right here. And the hyperdrive, in the game you can see the engines, and then the hyperdrive just sticks out like that. But here they've got this whole contraption going on. And, you know, if you're not familiar with what a hyperdrive is, yeah, I suppose that's sort of what it looked like. Over here, they do actually have the storage area. It's a very generic version of it, but that is the location. It's not exactly the same size and shape, but that is the proper location for that compartment. And then another living quarters here. And they have these little things over here. I think those are like little storage spots. So like they put a decent amount of detail in there, despite it being woefully inaccurate, and looking at it kind of makes me sad. I'm gonna run to the other room very quickly to show you guys, well, not so much show you guys, but don't mind the mess. This is a tragedy in here. Yeah, this is where I do a lot of my tinkering. Okay, so this is the box of stuff that was supposed to be with this, and some of it is a little bit of my fault for not understanding how Bricklink works. So I did order a few things that I needed less of, but basically, oh, and I have been pulling stuff out of here for other projects using these as spare parts. The Minecraft bees don't go in there. So everything in this box, besides those, everything in this is stuff that is on the parts list that you don't use. So yeah, like I said when I was talking about the parts list, or the part count in the beginning of the video, it is not accurate. Now, I don't know if they've updated in the last 4 years, but back in 2021 when I bought the instructions, the parts list has all those extra pieces, and a lot of pieces that you do use aren't on the parts list. So I had to do a whole bunch of like emergency parts purchases in order to get the pieces I needed. This bag, however, is stuff that I removed. Let's see if I can open this with one hand and my teeth. Come on, there we go. So, I'm just gonna spill it out right here. So, what these are parts that keep the panels from closing. These right here were supposed to be up top there. and they keep it from closing. They were supposed to be like this. And I believe these were supposed to be in the middle. I don't exactly remember how they were, but that is physically too large for this. And it also had some parts that were supposed to, where did I put that? Right here. See that little notch right there? They're supposed to sit there, but it was too long. It was both too long and too wide. The too long made it sit like this, where the whole, this hinge section was really like that, when it's supposed to be less of an angle, and it was real harsh, and it kept that whole panel up. But if you had it at the proper angle, then you couldn't close it all the way. And then if you had the engines down, you couldn't close those at all because they were clipping into that. And then after you fix that, actually before you even fix that, these parts right here, they had these where those printed pieces are. They're not printed, those are stickered pieces. I just grabbed some random stuff that I found on Bricklink. They had these, which are, I don't know, about half a tile too tall compared to those. I'll show you this. I didn't even put anything down underneath that. So you have that, which is only 2 plates tall, and you have this, which is 3 plates tall. Now having those right there, I can show you with just one. I'll show you how that looks. So that is what it does. See how it's not laying down flat? It's supposed to lay flat here. Take that off. Boom. There you go. So that was frustrating, seeing all these things. But wait, there's more. Put that back up. On there. These are little spigots. They're cute. They go right here. So you got yourself a little bar with some taps. Really cute little addition. Again, wasn't in the original. And again, you might notice something here. Yeah, that boat don't float. So yeah, put those on, tried to put the panel down several steps later, and was like, hey, what the heck? Pulled those off, and it closes just fine without them. You even have the little cup, and I think it's supposed to be like a beverage or a lamp or something, I don't know. But you see, there's all these little things that they put on the interior and a little bit on the exterior that just do not match up with the exterior. And so they either, it's a gross oversight on their part regardless, they either had different people working on it or they just didn't pay attention. And then they sold the instructions without having tested it themselves. Which, that's just bad practice, if we're being honest here. But, you know, I can't really judge them. I've never made instructions before. The one time I've tried to use Brick Studio, I gave up because I couldn't figure out how to work with it. But I digress. It's a great build. It's going to be at WasabiCon in downtown Portland next month. Here's what the inside of that engine looks like. I mean, you're never really going to see that ever, but it's a pretty neat little mechanism here. Just have that bar piece right there, and then it just clips onto it, and it's a pretty stable thing there. So, like I said a few times, the outside looks fantastic. And I don't really worry about the inside. Here's a close-up of how I did it. I used some of the pieces that they wanted to use, and then I sort of just figured it out. It didn't take too long. It was pretty simple and easy. But those go down, and then that goes down. Come on. Why are you not working? So much for simple and easy. There you go. Now it sits there nice and flush. It is very nice. Technically, the original didn't have these big circles. Are a lot, very, very small. But I think it looks fine. It's perfectly fine. I do like that you just put your fingers right there, and there's enough of a spot there you can grab it. Otherwise, there's kind of no way to get it when you've got the thing up there. You kind of have to, it's hard to do. I just go boop and lift it up. But yeah, this is the Ebon Hawk. I love this thing. I don't know if I'll do another big mock of somebody else's ever again. This is the second one I've done. The first one I got as a kit. It's in the other room. I'll do a video on that eventually. And then this one is the first time I actually brick-linked anything. It was all parts for this. And it's really, really nice, if I say so myself. Remember how to put these back together. Those in there. Those there. And like I showed earlier, I do have the Midi-scale there. That one is by Brad Barber for Creation Caravan. I'll probably link that in the description as well. That, however, is not fully his design. I mean, physically the design is his, but the colors there, I reskinned it because that is only using parts from the Millennium Falcon Midi-scale that we got last year, and his version is completely gray, basically, because, you know, Millennium Falcon, it's just a big gray ship. And but it looks great. There's and then after I did that one, there was one by a designer named Tommaso who does great freaking work, and his uses parts from the same Millennium Falcon, but also uses parts from the T6 shuttle that we got last year, and that actually is proper coloring, and I'll do that at some point. And then I looked on Rebrickable, and there's like 5 other Midi-scale and other various scale Ebon Hawks as well. So eventually I'll have like 5 or 6 of these. Yeah. I really wish that they would do more Knights of the Old Republic content, but we should be getting the remake of KOTOR 1 coming out in, I believe, 2027. They're working on that. I don't remember which studio it is, but they said recently that they're still plugging along on that. So, you know, fingers crossed we might get some more stuff from that. I have almost all of the Old Republic sets that they made. There were only 4 of them. And yeah, the battle pack is the only one I don't have, but I might grab that. But anyways, all I'm doing right now is rambling. If you've made it this far, you know, like, subscribe, do your thing. Comment your favorite memory of Knights of the Old Republic, if you've ever done anything or had any horrible crashes. I know that's something that's been happening sometimes with the Switch ports. There's so many bugs in there that weren't in the original. Anyway, yeah, let me know what your favorite Star Wars ship is in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.